All right, so we're rolling back into the Supreme Court again, Jason. I know you're excited about this.
Yes.
I bet you do.
Yes.
How will the Supreme Court's ruling affect marijuana rescheduling? The U.S. Supreme Court's landmark decision to significantly curtail federal regulatory agencies' power has triggered a fresh round of uncertainty about the status of marijuana rescheduling. But none of this uncertainty is expected to disrupt the Biden administration's rescheduling process, because he's asleep and forgot he had one. Policy and administrative law experts told MJ Biz Daily. The court on Friday ruled 6-3 along partisan lines that courts no longer must give deference to federal agencies' interpretation of laws when Congress leaves ambiguity, marking an end to the so-called Chevron doctrine, named for a 1984 court case. In the past, courts have handed over their judicial powers to interpret to the actual subject matter experts in the room, the regulators. Deb Tharp, head of legal and policy research at NUG-MD, an online provider of medical marijuana recommendations, told MJ Biz Daily via an email leading up to the Chevron decision. Consequences of ruling? Speculation about what consequences the Chevron ruling might present for existing state-regulated marijuana markets include questions about federal agencies' ability to issue future non-binding guidance, such as a new Cole memo, as well as fresh doubts over whether the Drug Enforcement Administration will be able to rein in intoxicating hemp products such as Delta-8 THC and THCA. You love that, Jason Beck. But the ongoing formal rescheduling process, the DEA is weighing downgrading marijuana from Schedule I to Schedule III of the Controlled Substances Act as soon as this fall. Likely won't be significantly impacted, according to the attorney Shane Pennington, a partner at Porter Wright's Washington, D.C. office, who has explored the topic extensively. I still feel really good about this, Pennington told MJ Biz Daily in a phone interview Monday. If you really scrutinize Chief Justice John Roberts' opinion, there's really a lot of good stuff in it. In an ironic twist, past efforts to reschedule marijuana have been dismissed in part because of the court's reliance on the Chevron doctrine. That reliance allowed the DEA to apply its own standard when determining marijuana did not have a currently acceptable medical use. But in the current rescheduling process ordered by President Joe Biden in October 2022, the Department of Health and Human Services determined in August 2023 that based on a new two-part standard, cannabis does have a currently accepted medical use. Based on that advice from the HHS and an opinion from the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland issued a proposed rule this past May to reclassify marijuana as Schedule III. That decision is the most intensely scrutinized, intensely researched, commented upon thing we've ever had, Pennington said. Little ambiguity in his 35-page opinion on the Supreme Court overruling the Chevron doctrine. Roberts wrote that federal law directs courts, rather than administrative agencies, to decide legal questions by applying their own judgment. But there's little ambiguity that Congress gave the HHS clear authority on questions of science and medicine, Pennington said. And that deference is unaffected by the end of Chevron. That's just as binding today, he said. It's just as binding today. Other questions about the DOJ's analysis that the U.S. obligations under international treaties prevent rescheduling also are addressed in the Chevron decision. Pennington said, challenges continue. There likely will be challenges to rescheduling based on, or at least referencing, Friday's ruling. We still have work to do. There's going to be litigation, Pennington added. Other ongoing cases, such as a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of federal marijuana prohibition, also are unlikely to be directly affected. And predictions that the ruling could be applied in attacks on state marijuana regulations around licensing or social equity provisions are highly speculative at best, said Shalene Title, an attorney and former Massachusetts state regulator. Meanwhile, Tharp wrote that states have their own versions of Chevron deference and will likely adapt their deference policies based on the Supreme Court's decisions. More states will weaken deference as well and empower state courts to set the standards by which cannabis businesses can operate, she added. To me, this is just, well, it's important, but it's always been constitutional law. It's always been equal protection under the Constitution of the United States. That is a constitutional judge's job to rule on. No one has done it. Everyone is pushed out. We brought children. We paraded cancer patients. We brought everyone through all these use cases. We've seen that cannabis is changing people's lives. We've seen the medical applications. in practice. The judges acknowledged it and then said, well, but it's not my job to rule on. So I think hopefully this will take that excuse away maybe, and we'll see. But also, I really think that MJ Biz Daily likes to pump up Joe Biden, it seemed lately, with some of their writing.
A lot of the cannabis publications are left-leaning, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But
why do you think that is?
Why?
I mean, is that just like, do open-mindedness and open-mindedness go hand in hand?
No, because most of the people that run these publications are already Democrats, and that's just what it is.
Yep.
That's pretty much why. Any other questions, Yarrow? As to
I just wish the article had given a little bit of homage to Shane Pennington, as the fact that, like, not only is a cool, I believe, attorney, but also he's got like this really cool, like, tribal like barbed wire tattoo, and they didn't give him any props for that. I like Shalene Title. I very much disagree with her on a lot of policy stuff, especially the virtue signaling. Like, she suggested that anybody who's ever been convicted of an environmental crime has a lifetime ban for regulated cannabis. I'm like, thank you very much for virtue signaling. Tell that to all the brown people in the hills in California who may not have understood the idea of runoff and how to deal with pesticides and nutrients. But I just think that, like, we're in this very weird era with courts now where I don't think we can look in the rearview mirror to get any guidance around what the Supreme Court is going to do on a lot of these issues. I think we have got we're in a whole new chapter. And if Clarence Thomas is not on an undisclosed trip to Alaska paid by some other billionaire, we've got really non-predictable outcomes at the highest level of our judicial system moving forward.
I think it's pretty. I think the exact opposite, Yarrow. I think what we are getting now is just clear-cut decisions based off our Constitution, and not all of these different ideologies by different judges.
What?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that we're putting the power
literally the complete opposite of what you just said
to the subject matter experts, which is still going to leave it up to the opinion of the judges, but it's going to take away that this isn't my job excuse.
I mean, I'm really glad that the Chevron doctrine was repealed, personally. I think it ultimately will help us out, because it's going to be less government.
It's not going to help out because Jason Beck is going to be now the #1 expert on whatever, on all things, anything.
I always have been, though. Nothing changed, Simon. Nothing changed with that.
Opinions are where trouble starts, right? Is when someone uneducated.
That's what the Chevron doctrine was. It gave bureaucrats the ability to import their opinion in regards with where law was ambiguous.
No.
Yeah.
No, bro.
Yeah,
Let someone at least be able to articulate what it is.
I'm waiting, bro. I'm sitting here with my popcorn.
What it is it sets up the information basis for things from an expert level, perspective, let's call it. Okay. So as someone that went to college, someone that traveled the world, that has studied, that has been, intertwined in all these things, has the best perspective, right? Arguably. Jason, if someone comes to you and says, hey, bro, I've never run a dispensary before, I've never even run a retail store, and I've got the best perspective on how to run it, what are you going to tell them? You're going to tell them, no, you don't. You're full of shit. I do, because I'm the longest standing retail, cannabis retail operator in the United States. That's exactly what you tell them. So in this case, that guy, if he was a judge, would have all the authority to make his opinion and force it through and pass it as law, or as a precedent, let's say, instead of law, as a precedent for a law to be made. So that's the problem. Is that,
and it's a further consolidation of the power within the judiciary in a way that is unprecedented in recent history.
So are you saying, Simon, that you don't want experts in fields making expert decisions? Because that's what I hear.
No, I want those people to have a critical place in a judiciary where decisions are made that are going to impact rules and ruling on us as a citizenry. Yes, that's exactly what I want. Instead of somebody's half-cocked opinion or idea, or
then you should be happy with this Chevron decision, then, Simon, because you had a bunch of bureaucrats figuring things out for interpreting laws where the laws weren't clear cut. And these bureaucrats should not be figuring this out.
But now you have a bunch of attorneys who are now just
I'm good with that.
doing the exact same thing.
I'd rather have the attorneys.
Matter expertise.
I'd rather have the attorneys than the bureaucrats.
It's actually just in a fewer hands.
Wait, what's the difference between an attorney and a bureaucrat?
I could tell you right now, an attorney doesn't have a government salary.
Rate.
Yeah, exactly, Todd.
It's not. This isn't a partisan issue. This is a liberty issue, right? And it's like if we're gonna have people making decisions that are gonna impact our lives, we really need to be critical of those perspectives. And if we're not gonna be critical of those perspectives, if it's gonna be, hey, just up to these like handful of people, there's a big problem in that. And if you don't see that as a problem, then I think that's an even bigger problem.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh boy. You guys and your problems.